Hello guys and welcome back. Today we are going to be doing zigzag conversion, which is a medium LeetCode question. So it says the string PayPal is hiring is written in a zigzag pattern on a given number of rows like this. And then in brackets it says you may want to display this pattern in a fixed font for better legibility. So as you can see, this string says PayPal is hiring and is written in a zigzag pattern. And basically we're supposed to read it by line to say, like, line 1, line 2 and line 3 joined. So it says write the code that would take a string and make this conversion given a number of rows. So the function is going to be called convert, and it returns a string. So it takes in the string, basically like this one, like PayPal is hiring, and then it does the conversion into a zigzag format, and then it returns how the string would read if the number of rows were basically joined. For example, in this case it's PAHN APLSIIG and then YIR. And then you're given some examples here. Example 1 is basically what we just discussed, but I think the number of rows is the same. So the number of rows is 3, and then it returns this output. And then there's example 2 and example 3. So basically you're also given some constraints. It says 1 is less than or equal to the length of the string, which is less than or equal to 1,000. And then the string S consists of English letters, lowercase and uppercase, and then a comma, a full stop. And then the number of rows is going to be between 1 and 1,000 inclusive. So one thing that to solve this question that we have to think about is that, basically we're doing a zigzag conversion, which basically means you're going down and then you're going diagonally and then down again and then diagonally and then down. So basically, if you are someone who's solving this question, what you have to think about is that you are going to want to go through the actual string itself while filling in this zigzag pattern. So basically the letter that is at the start, for example, let's say you have the word apple, right? Excuse my writing, but let's say you have the word apple and you're given 2 rows, right? Let's see if we have an eraser. Okay, let's just erase this. Okay, I should make it bigger, but right. So suppose you're given the word apple and you're given 2 rows. So basically what you want to do is you want to traverse through the length of this string, right? And then fill in those rows. You're traversing in this direction and you have indexes for this. This is index 0, this is index 1 for P, and then this is index 2 for the other P, and then this is index 3 for this L, and then this is index 4. And if you're going to do like a zigzag pattern, right, at index 0 you're going to basically put A, right? This is the number of rows, so the number of rows is 2. This is row number 1, row number 2, and you're going in this direction. So A is here, and then you have P here, and then you have another P over here, and then you have the other L over here, and then you have the E. This would be the simple solution. And the zigzag in this way would be the fact that you basically moved in this direction and then in this direction and then in this direction and then again to the E. So if you think about exactly what is happening here, you see that what is basically happening is that you are going to have 2 arrays, right? One array is going to hold the first row, and then the second array is going to hold the second row. So you need 2 arrays to actually fill in this format, and then at the end all you have to do is to just join, and then the result would be A, P, E, P, L, right? So this is what we're basically going to do. That's the idea that we're going to use in this question. So let's just get right in the code. So what we need, as we discussed, that we need an array to hold each row. So we'll declare our array is going to be a list of character items, and that's going to be equal to a new array list, right? And then now, because we have this array list, right, a list of like a list, we want to basically like populate like the elements that are supposed to be there. So that's going to be equal to the number of rows here. So we'll just say for int I is equal to 0 and I is less than the number of rows and I plus plus, we'll say items dot add a new array list like this. So now we have, you know, the array that we want to store these characters that we're generating, and we've initialized the elements that are needed there. So now we can start like filling in that zigzag pattern. So we'll need like an iterator, right, a variable that's going to hold the index of the letter that we are in the string. So we'll just call it pos for position, and we'll start off at 0, and then we'll say while the position is less than the string dot length Now, the fact of the matter is that we want to make sure that, like, you know, the variable that we have, like this position, is what is going to be giving us the character, but we also have the number of rows. So for those rows that as we are going down here and we're going down 1 to 2 and then 2 back to 1 in a diagonal pattern, we want to make sure that like we are not going beyond bounds. So we initialize a variable for that row which is equal to 0, and then we say while the row is less than the number of rows, right? And the variable for position is less than s.length. So this is because that like this row is starting from 0, right? If the number of rows is 2, we'll only go from row number 0 to row number 1, because like in arrays, like in Java, we start counting from 0. So while we are going down, right, while the row is less than the number of rows, we're basically traversing down the zigzag pattern. We're going to say items dot get, then we want to get that specific row, right, like row number 0, and then we want to add the character that we are at that point in time. So char at, right, position, right? So now we've filled in like that first part, but now we have to increase the row and we also have to increment the position. So this can be done by saying row plus plus and then position plus plus, but we can just use this shorthand notation like inside this itself, because the incrementing only happens after, you know, the code has been evaluated and the item has been added to that specific row. So we also increment the position. So bear in mind that like if you are traversing down this row and you started off with a variable row which was equal to 0, when you go to 0 and then you go to 1, if you want to go back to this specific position here, right, you will have to basically like remember that row was being incremented like in this loop, right? At first it was 0, right? The first time you came into this, row was equal to 0, and then you finish this while block, and then you came back to check, yes, row still less than number of rows, but then it was equal to 1 because you had done like row plus plus. Now it was still like, you know, less than number of rows, so it came back into this, and then row number 1 was filled in, and then it became 2 after row plus plus, and then here at this point in time, right, you have to understand that row is now equal to 2. That is if the number of rows was equal to 2. So how do we get back to row number 0 so that we can start like filling in the diagonal part of it, right? Or how do we get back to the position that is the first time, like even if this was equal to 3, right, you would still need to go like 2 positions back, because like by the time you finish filling this part of the zigzag pattern, the straight part, the variable that is counting the number of rows is basically above where it's supposed to be by 2. So because of that, we would decrement by 2, and then now we start going right back up doing the zigzag pattern. So we're going to say while the row now, you know, is greater than 0, right, while the row is greater than 0 and the position of the is less than s.length, we fill in again. So we say items is basically the same statement, but in this case we are going to be decrementing the row because we are going back up. So that's going to be row minus minus, and then the character we increment. And then when it comes back to do this the diagonal, like the straight part again, row will be initialized to 0 again, so we are good in that front. And then after that, now we have all those arrays, right, filled in. Like we have an array holding PAHA, and we have an array holding APLISIIG, and we have a row, like an array holding YIR. So now we need to join those. So for that, we're just going to use the Java string builder. So we say string builder is equal to new string builder, right? And then for int I is equal to 0 and I is less than items dot size. So for all the arrays that we have, and then we say I plus plus. Now we are still going to say list of character for the current array that we have. List of character, we'll just call it current, for the current list is equal to items dot get the one at I, and then we'll say for character ch in this char, we'll add to the string builder. So we'll say builder dot append that character, and then at the end, after we do all of this, we're just going to return the builder dot to string, and that should give us the string that we are looking for. So let's just run this against the cases and see if it passes. And as you can see, it passes all the cases. Now we can submit and see if it passes all the cases set out for this question. And as you can see, it passes in BIS 39%, 39.4%. So it's not like the most efficient solution. Obviously, there are ways to improve this and ways to solve this better. For those people who have alternative solutions or questions or solutions they want to discuss, please put it in the comments and I'll get back to you. But until then, thank you and see you in the next video.